Hello, and welcome to another episode of Explain Like I'm 5. For those of you tuning in for the first time, I'll be going over some of the most popular questions and answers from the Explain Like I'm 5 subreddit. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing as it greatly supports the channel. Now, let's get started with our first question. Explain Like I'm 5. Why do cigarettes have so many toxic substances in them? Surely you don't need rat poison to get high. Not just rat poison, but so many of the ingredients just sound straight up unnecessary and also harmful. Why is there tar in cigarettes? Or arsenic? Formaldehyde? I get the tobacco and nicotine part, but do you really need 1001 poisons in it? Edit. Thanks for answering. I was also curious as to why cocaine needs cement powder and gasoline added in production. Snorting cement powder does not sound like a good idea. Then again, snorting cocaine is generally not considered a good idea. But still, why is there cement and gasoline in cocaine? No one is intentionally putting arsenic into cigarettes. But tobacco plants can absorb arsenic from the soil as they grow, much like rice. And the arsenic remains in the leaves as they are dried and ends up in the finished product. In its natural state, it wouldn't be a problem, but you're consuming a relatively large amount of tobacco leaves since they've been dried and concentrated. Tar is a confusing one, because the tar they are referring to is not the same as the tar you may be thinking of. It's not the same stuff they put on roads and roofs. It's just a generic term for the sticky residue left by sooty tobacco smoke that results from incomplete combustion of the material. Formaldehyde is also not an intentional additive, but it's important to remember that burning is both a physical and a chemical reaction. The chemical we call formaldehyde just happens to be the resultant that forms when certain compounds burn. Lots of things create formaldehyde. It's also present in your car's exhaust. We just don't usually directly inhale it unless you're smoking tobacco. Outside of some things added to increase nicotine absorption and make them more addictive, there's not really anything intentionally added to cigarettes to make them more toxic. The people who invented them just didn't realize how bad it is for you to suck down unfiltered, particulate-laden smoke. Why is there tar in cigarettes? Because when you burn plant material, you get tar. Tobacco is plant material, therefore there is tar in smoked cigarettes. Or arsenic. The tobacco plant takes up arsenic naturally present in the soil, so when you burn it, the arsenic is released as well. Most edible plants contain some amount of arsenic. Formaldehyde? When you burn cellulose, sugars, etc., it can create formaldehyde. Burning plant matter is going to create a lot of substances. You would get formaldehyde from burning lettuce. But so many of the ingredients just sound straight up unnecessary and also harmful. That is 1000% the point. The people crowing about the ingredients are trying to convince you that smoking tobacco is horrible for you. And so they tell you all about the scary ingredients in the smoke, while not mentioning the fact that it is also in the smoke of any burning plant matter. Smoking is of course bad for you, but the vast majority of the harmful ingredients that are cited, the producers don't add to the tobacco. This is such an eye-opening and informative discussion about the toxic substances in cigarettes and how they end up there. It's so interesting to learn that things like arsenic and formaldehyde aren't intentionally added, but are byproducts of burning tobacco. It really makes you think about how harmful smoking is and how little people may know about what they're actually inhaling when they smoke. So, why do cigarettes have so many toxic substances in them? It's fascinating to learn about how these substances end up in cigarettes without being intentionally added. And it's really important for people to understand the harmful effects of smoking, beyond just tobacco and nicotine. What are some other surprising substances that end up in cigarettes through the process of burning? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Explain Like I'm 5. If an operational cost of an MRI scan is $50 to $75, why does it cost up to $3,500 to a patient? Explain it to me as if I were European. MRI tech here. The machines I run cost $3 million each. That's just the machine, not the infrastructure around the machine, which includes supercooled helium at about $30,000 a tank, specialized electrical equipment to deal with the incredibly high voltages, and a troupe of very expensive, highly skilled maintenance people on call 24/7. Each coil costs anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000. That's the thing that wraps around the body part that we're looking at. So it's not enough to just have a machine. You also have to have a hand coil, a foot coil, a body coil, a head coil, a shoulder coil, a breast coil, a spine coil. If you get more specialized scans or people with certain implants, you need other, more specialized coils that are more expensive than the standard version. 2 weeks ago, we had, to put it in the maintenance workers' terms, the thing that regulates a cooling thing gets stuck in some sort of way that required a new part. This part weighed about 400 pounds and cost about $1,000 itself, but cost slightly more than that to overnight ship it here from Germany. This is a very small fix. Last year we had the main gradient coil go bad on one of our scanners, and all our managers and even the usually loose-lipped maintenance people refused to give us any sort of ballpark on cost. Those are the big expenditures as far as I know. The smaller ones include us, the techs who run them, at about 35 to 60 per hour, an on-call nurse or radiologist to deal with contrast reactions should they occur. I don't know what their hourly rate is. Gadolinium contrast, which is about 30-ish a milliliter, as far as I know, each patient getting 1 milliliter per 10 kilos. So a 60 kilograms person will get 6 milliliter at about $120. Eovist is more like $40 per milliliter, and the rate is 2 times that, so a 60k drain person will get 12 milliliter. So yeah, the overhead is a lot. And these are very complicated, very dangerous machines that are kind of always breaking because we are running them all day, every day. And this is healthcare. So we have to stop the second anything goes a little bit wrong to keep things from going a lot of wrong. And because the overhead is so much, and the liability is so high, and there are a finite number of these very complicated machines, they've kind of been monopolized by extremely huge healthcare entities that can charge whatever they want. I would actually be super interested to see a cost breakdown because imaging and MRI in particular make healthcare corporations so much goddamn money. Radiology is where the money's at. The machine itself can cost $1 million, so it takes quite a while to pay that initial cost off. But the cost also includes the cost of the contrast dye they use, administrative staff, nurses, the medical personnel who interpret the results of the scan, and any number of other things. That certainly all adds up to more than $50 to $75. It's also because the American healthcare system is for profit. Any opportunity to get more money will be exploited. This is quite interesting and eye-opening. I never realized the full extent of the costs involved in operating an MRI machine and how they contribute to the high patient costs. The sheer amount of specialized equipment, maintenance, and operational expenses makes it clear why the price for patients can be so high. It's also concerning to learn that the American healthcare system's for-profit nature leads to these costs being exploited for financial gain. So let me get this straight. The MRI machines themselves cost millions of dollars, plus there are expensive coils, specialized equipment, and maintenance costs. On top of that, there's contrast dye, administrative staff, and other medical personnel involved in the process. All of these contribute to the final cost that patients have to pay. It's quite a complex and costly operation. What are your thoughts on the information provided? Does this change your perspective on the costs of healthcare procedures like MRI scans? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Explain like I'm 5. Why is Japan's prosecution rate so absurdly high at 99.8%? I've heard people say that lawyers only choose to prosecute cases that they know they might win. But isn't that true for lawyers in basically any country, anywhere? Edit. I meant conviction rate in the title. Nitpick. You mean conviction rate. 99. 8% of people who are prosecuted are convicted. This phenomenon is debated, but there are 2 generally accepted answers. The first is what you mentioned. Japanese prosecutors are much more hesitant to prosecute a case they might lose than other countries' prosecutors. Your belief isn't right. Plenty of prosecutors bring a case against someone even if they aren't 100% sure that they will win. The second reason is that the Japanese criminal justice system is extremely harsh towards defendants. Evidence can easily be excluded from discovery, making it hard to prepare a defense. Defendants are often presumed guilty until proven innocent. Defendants don't have a right to silence. They can often be forced to speak against themselves. Sound bad? It is. This is really interesting. The extremely high conviction rate in Japan is shocking and raises a lot of questions about their criminal justice system. It's hard to believe that almost 100% of people who are prosecuted are convicted. The fact that evidence can be easily excluded from discovery and defendants are often presumed guilty until proven innocent is absolutely terrifying. It seems like a very unfair system for anyone accused of a crime. I can't imagine not having the right to remain silent or being forced to speak against myself. That's just not right. So, have there been any efforts to reform the criminal justice system in Japan to make it more fair for defendants? Is there a lot of public debate and outcry about these issues? Well, that's another episode of Explain Like I'm 5 in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.